Hi, I'm Jenna.
And I'm Kelley, and this is the Rebuild the Construction Mindset podcast, where we focus on embracing new ideas and methods with enthusiasm and excitement in the construction industry.
Our goal is to bridge the gap between all professions that touch the industry and create a platform for different perspectives. From suppliers to end users, we want all voices to be heard.
All right, welcome everybody to our new episode. We have Mario Martinez here. It's going to be really impactful, so I'm going to just hand it straight over to him and have him give a little introduction on who he is and a background of how he started in the industry. So, Mario, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mario Martinez, aka Margarito Martinez, and that's my true legal name. I'm a drywall finisher per my trade. Growing up in the industry, my whole life, my dad pretty much was a construction field, so I grew up like any other kid, right? Going to side jobs and doing work around the house and doing all that jazz. So I've pretty much been in the trade like as far as I can remember. Finally, I got into my field, drywall finishing. Yeah, I've been in the union for. I'm a union member. 2009. As far as I can remember, I've been taping drywall.
Say, as the photo that he shared with me the other day of like mud falling off the wall, learning a new trade, and I said, "No, Mario, that's just you normally doing taping."
Yeah,
falling all over your face, right?
Oh, no, that was me. That was me at 6. Yeah, and as you mentioned, I am learning a new trade right now. Continuously improving, trying to elevate my career. Right, I am actually a plaster now, working on the exterior, which is all new details to me, but I accept the challenge, and I feel like I'm doing pretty well at it.
Hey, Jenna, what was your question that you were going to say?
I was going to ask, so you said that you've been in it for most of your life. So how old were you when you started? Your first memory.
Officially, like where I actually received a payroll paycheck, I was 17 years old.
Wow.
But I could remember as far as my dad would bring me to the job sites and I would sand drywall. He'd like, "Hey, I want you to sand this drywall. Here, get the sanding pole and start sanding, son." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." I didn't know what I was doing, but it was fun to me, right? I was hanging out with my dad and we were sanding drywall.
Your dad was a taper then also?
My dad, well, yes, as far as I can remember, my dad was a taper, but my dad also did 20 years concrete.
Okay.
So he did his first from like, I'd say my age, when I started 17 to about 30, maybe 30, 35 or something, he did concrete. And then from 35 and till he retired, he was a taper.
Maybe decided to change for physical difficulty or differences in those two trades, I would assume.
Oh, definitely. He's had so many surgeries on his hands due to he was jackhammer, right? He would jackhammer all day. So when you shake my dad's hand now, my dad's hand is literally closed shut due to all his surgeries and stuff. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just one of his hands or both hands?
Both of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
that's the long-term effects that you don't really notice, right? Or you don't know.
You don't notice them when you're doing it, right? And we push ourselves and we're just like, yeah, let's get this done. And next thing you know, you're having surgery.
So Mario, you and I have talked, and I want to hit. You started in the industry, but you took a break, right?
I did. So a little bit about myself. I am a recovering addict. I got into all that stuff early in life. I took a break from construction. Like probably I would say I wanted to go do college and stuff, and I wanted to see what I was going to do in my life because I seen my dad and how tired he was and how hurt he would come home late days, long hours. And I kind of didn't want that at the time. I wanted to go to college and see what I could do. And I ended up getting addicted to some drugs. I took a little break. So I figured it out and I got into recovery and now I got back into the union and I joined the union and I seen the beauty of how the Brotherhood is, right? Because I'm all about Brotherhood. You know me, the union Brotherhood, right? And it's something that I felt like when I was in my addiction, because you're always trying to find that that brotherhood, right, out wherever you're doing. And I ended up getting clean, and I joined the union, and it just propelled a whole new life for me, right? I ended up putting all the focus that I did into chasing that next high onto to working, right? And I've been accomplishing so many goals. But there comes a time when, like, for example, like, you're putting all this effort, right? And you have a family, you have a wife, and all this stuff, and now it's like an addiction too, right? Work becomes an addiction, right? And you're just substituting the drug you were using for work. So figuring out how to maintain that, I'm still struggling with it here and there, but figuring how to maintain the work life and the social life and the family life and having the, I'm pretty sure we all struggle with that, right?
Yeah. How long have you been married?
Officially married, I've been married for 3 years now. Don't ask my wife because that might be wrong. But I got married in 2000.
On the podcast next. What are you talking about? We already talked about this, Mario.
We got married in 2021 of April 17th, 2021. But I've known my wife since 2004.
Okay. You guys,
So me and my
20
wife
years.
Yeah, 20 years going on 20 years. Yeah. So she's been there, stuck it out, had some breaks, came back, stuck it out. Yeah. So, but yeah, she's definitely a trooper. She's definitely my ride or die, they call it out here, you know.
So did she what was her opinion when you went back and joined the union? What were her thoughts on it?
She's always supported me. She's always supported me no matter what. And there's those times when I was unsupportable, right? So obviously I understand that. But when I went back to the union, she supported me fully. She had my back 100%, and she's always motivated me to better myself, you know. Until the day, she still motivates me to better myself. Yeah.
And what are her thoughts about the long hours and the physical amount of stress it puts on you?
So that's a great topic you bring up, right? Because like we say, balance, right? And the industry is seasonal, right? There's seasons where it's really slow, and I'm home all the time, and I'm obviously working 8-hour days, but I'm home more, right? But then there's these seasons where, especially when we do these high impact projects, where the schedules are aggressive, and we have to man up the job, and we have to work 12-hour days, 7 days a week. I was on a job where I was working 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I would not even come home because we'd get a hotel right next to the job site because it didn't make sense, right? In the beginning.
How long were you doing that? Like, was that like a couple of weeks, or was that months long, 16 hours?
2 days. I mean, sorry, 2 weeks. 2 weeks we did it for.
Okay.
2 weeks. And as a wet trade, they brought it up like, hey, maybe we should make 2 shifts, and it makes sense, right, to bring in 2 shifts. But as a wet trade, it doesn't make sense, because for those that are in wet trade, if you stop, you have to get it wet the whole day, right? You can't stop. You have to get the area wet, and if you bring in another team, then wet over wet doesn't work, right? So you have to get the whole thing wet, and just the way the job panned out, it was necessary to work 16 hours for tapers and plasters. So, but back to your question, in the beginning, she wasn't for it. She was like, her first, I remember her, I can tell you guys a story right now. Her first experience with it, she hated it. I remember she's used to me like being available for her, like if she needs a phone call or a text. And when I was working I was still on the wall. I was a lead man. I wasn't a foreman or anything above that yet. I was just a lead man, and I remember I wasn't available for her, and it brought some issues between us, because she thought other things, especially because I was in a hotel out of town. I wasn't coming home. It actually marked one of our biggest probably arguments that we've ever had in our whole relationship. We actually split up for a bit because of that, but I could probably talk about the story. So we ended up splitting up, right? And I remember it was Mother's Day. We split up. She went back to her mom's. My daughter was devastated, right? She's always known us and to be together, and she was devastated. So her and her mom had some issues. Some things were said. There was some screaming. So the police were called. The neighbor called the police. They came. My daughter said some things to the police that was like things she told the police, like she wanted to hurt herself, right? So police automatically took her to the mental hospital. She was in the mental hospital for a bit, and I remember calling my boss at that time, and I let him know, like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, I don't need to get into details, but I am, because I'm gonna let you know what's going on. And I missed Monday, and came back Tuesday, and I ended up getting laid off for that, right? So it's kind of like why I kind of want to do the podcast, because changing the mindset of the construction, right? Because it's such a cutthroat industry, and it's it's so competitive. Like, next man up, right? Next man up. You're not here. Next man up. Next man up. Next man up. And I ended up getting laid off that Tuesday. I have a great boss right now, and I learned from him. I can call him whatever. So he's kind of mentoring me in how to become a leader, right? I'm a leader in the industry right now, and I'm coming up, and I'm trying to change the culture, right, and make it open for people to. I always have an open door. They can come talk to me about anything they got going on, and try and guide them towards some resources or whatever. Just be a ear to listen for what they got going on, you know?
That is a very emotional story. Thank you for sharing that, Mario. Seriously, because I think that it's super important that we have these conversations and that we're real, because this stuff happens all the time. And it's not just our industry, it's everywhere. It's the fact that we put work as a priority before our families, and we're expected to perform, and we're expected to come to work and not wear our emotions on our shoulders and on our sleeves, and with all of the things that could potentially be going on in your personal life, you have to pretend like it's not happening, and you have to go to work with a smile on your face, and you've got to, push through, because that's what you have to do to survive. And it's just heartbreaking to hear that that's kind of how, in your experience, that's how it's kind of, getting laid off the day after. And I mean, it's definitely not the only story I've heard of that. And it does come with the leaders in our industry. It shouldn't be a standard. And I think it's great to hear that you have a good boss now. And I'm curious to hear, though, I don't know how long ago that was when that happened, but have you seen a shift in the mindset since then with some of the leaders that you've been working with now?
I really have, and there is a lot going on now. Like, there's more awareness, and there's like risk management brings out like all these trainings for leaders, so we can learn and how to deal with it, and how to be, I guess you could say the word compassionate, or I don't know how to explain it, but we have all these trainings that we do now. And me as a growing leader, like, just having, I would say, like, I remember I was called millennial generation. I guess we're bringing in the new culture, and with that being said, I mean, it is shifting in towards a positive way, and I seen it recently, because I just dealt with the passing of my brother in September 12th. He passed away. All the guys that I worked for the past 15 years, I would say, they were there for me. They all reached out. They all told me the same thing. Hey, if you need to talk, I'm here. Hey, whatever it is, if you're not okay mentally, it's okay to not be mentally like stable. Just talk to me, call me, let me know. So yeah, I do see a big change since then.
I think it's coming back to is you're a person, right? Manpower is a person that, when you and your team is showing up to work every day, we need to remember that there's stuff that's happening beyond the job site that can affect you, like dealing with your daughter, dealing with your wife, dealing with your brother's loss. Those are all things that will affect you coming out on site. Do we all try to not have it affect us? Yes, we do, but we can't do that every single day, right? Eventually we're all going to break down. So remembering that we need to give that time to the people around us and be there and accept them on the job site. If you're a little pissed off today, right? If you don't hit production 100% today, understanding that why,
Yeah.
You know, if tape's falling on your head, you know, understand that why.
Yep.
And talk to the person as a real person in lieu of, hey, why aren't you getting production? It's no, what's going on? Let's talk about it and realize that these are real people out there. They're not just manpower.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
Yeah.
I think it's also a safety issue, right? Like if you've got all these things happening and you're emotionally not stable enough to be, especially with some of these trades out there, like the steel workers, geez, that is a dangerous job. And to have one of those guys, you know, erecting steel after a tragedy where their brain isn't in the right, their mind isn't in the right setting and, you know, the state, and they're constantly thinking about what's going on outside of their job. I mean, they could potentially like hurt themselves and or kill themselves, you know, and it's very dangerous to go into the job site, even if you're not in a dangerous trade. You know, there's so many things going on that if you're not able to look around and be like mentally prepared enough for the job site, that's how things go wrong. That's how people cut off their fingers. That's how, you know, all of these things happen because they shouldn't be there. But
Right.
because of how aggressive and how demanding our industry is, it makes people feel like they need to. And obviously, you know, the money aspect of it, of them not being able to take time off and all of that. But that's, you know, I just think about the office versus the field. If something happens, like if something in my life happened, I could potentially work from home that day, or I could potentially, you know, like take half the day off and be able to work a little bit extra that night to make up for, you know, whatever work I need to get done. That does not apply to all of you guys in the field, all of the men and women in the field, right? You guys have to physically be there and be doing the work and regardless of what's going on at home.
Yeah. And you see it all the time in the field, and you see it. Oh, so and so's wife left him, or so and so lost his son, or so and so X reason, right? And you see it all the time in the field, but you see so and so at work still, right? And it's like the just that whole we're tough guys. This is what we have to do, and like you said, right? We can't take time off. I mean, we could, but um, it's so hard in this industry. It's just like I said, they find next man up, next man up, next man up, right? But now, like I said, now I took a whole month off when my brother passed away, and it was actually recommended by my company and my boss. So I'm just glad I'm back, and they understood, and they let me deal with my pain and be there for my family. So there is a change in the culture coming out, and it's very, very positive.
That's awesome. That's really
What
good.
do you do with your within your family, Mario, like with your wife, like with the long hours, or if you're, you know, spending a couple nights a week away from home, how are you making sure that connection is still there? So, I mean, you guys have been off and on for 20 years and now officially married. I mean, you guys have done something right for a little bit of time.
Yeah, it depends who you ask. If you ask me, I'm doing everything right. But if you ask my wife, I'm not doing anything right, right? Um, but I try my best, you know, I try my best to shut it off. Like, so right now I'm out of town again. I've been out of town since last August. Um, and it's going, if you ask me, I've been out of town for a year and 3 months. You ask my wife, I've been out of town for 2 years. So, um, I try and come home once a week. Remember, like in the beginning, I was trying to come home once a week, and now with the schedule and the pace and working overtime, it's hard to do that. But on my weekends, I just focus on my family. Like last night, we went out to a concert, took my wife out, and we just enjoyed each other, right? And just shut it off, right? A lot of people don't know how to shut it off. I sometimes don't know how to shut it off, but I'm still learning. I'll shut it off for the weekend because there's years that I've lost from my daughter already. Like she's 3 years old now. I left Colorado. She had just turned 2. I remember coming back the first time I got my flight home, and she wouldn't talk to me. She was so upset with me. She ignored me for like an hour and a half. I had to beg her to talk to me. And they're little people, you know, they understand, they know dad's not here, you know. Yeah, I remember all this. I remember I had a surgery one time. She was 6 months old. I had a surgery and I wasn't able to pick pick her up for 3 weeks. And as soon as I was ready to pick her up, I wanted to pick her up so bad, and she was upset with me. 9 months old, she was up. I mean, 6 months old, she was upset with me, and she knew that I didn't pick her up for the last 3 weeks.
See, it's
Yeah,
it's funny because they know that you like they understand what's happening, like in terms of like you being gone and stuff, but they don't understand why. And that's a hard thing to explain. I mean, I remember when I was young, my dad, he's not in the construction industry, but he was working long hours. He was gone a lot. And I remember just thinking, when my friends my friend would have her dad tuck her in every night, and whenever I would stay the night at her house, it was like it was so bizarre to me. Not bizarre, I was jealous. I was very jealous of it. And I just remember thinking like, well, why can't my dad do that? And I understood that he was gone a lot and I knew that he was working, but I didn't understand like how come my friend's dad gets to be home with her and my dad doesn't. And it's hard to do that, to have that kind of to be able to have a good relationship. And my dad and I have a very good relationship. But there's definitely times like in our past that I wish that he was around. And I know that him working hard and doing all of that has put him in a position now where he's able to be around more
yeah,
for like my kids and stuff when I have kids. But I just didn't understand that when I was younger. And I wish that, you know, the workforce didn't make us feel like we had to do that.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah. And like you said, they me as the guy doing it, right? I'm like, oh, I'm doing all this for my family. I'm doing this to move up, elevate my career. I'm doing this to get to that level where we're okay, and they don't see that. They see it as dad's gone, dad's missing, dad's missed my baseball game, dad missed my baseball tournament. My wife sees it like, hey, I'm here with 4 kids at home, and I have a job still, and I'm still studying, and I still have 4 kids, and it's a lot of stress on her.
Mhm.
So I understand that. So I try to when I get home on the weekends, I'm the one who's cooking, I'm the one who's cleaning, I'm the one who's taking care of the household from Friday night to Monday morning before I leave. It's all me to try and relieve that pressure from her.
Yeah. And they'll appreciate it when they're older, and when you get to a position in your career where you're not having to travel all the time, you're not having to do all that, and they're older and they understand it, they will appreciate it. I can tell you firsthand because I
Yeah,
do. I appreciate my dad very much for what he's provided us and just his drive, and that's why I chased a career that also was very driven, a driven career, so
yeah,
I mean what you're doing is definitely, I think, admirable. And I think all of the fields that does this, I mean, a lot of my field staff also travels a lot, and they don't really I mean, they have a choice. They could say no, but they know at the end of the day we need them. And so because of their integrity and because they love their job, they do it. And I don't think they understand how much we appreciate that. And when
yeah,
we're chasing a project outside of, where our guys are going to have to travel, or women and men are going to have to travel, we don't preface with them first, like, hey, we're going to be traveling. Are you okay with that? We just kind of get the job, win the job, and expect it to just be a thing, right? So,
yeah.
yeah,
And,
we
and
really
then
appreciate you guys.
6 months later, you guys give us a pizza party.
Yeah. So I guess you know what? That's a good brings up a good question. What is something that you would obviously pay? Like the pay is the number one thing. Like, yeah, we want, more money and more money. But other than money, what is something that would make you feel appreciated? Not just like a pizza party, but like what is something that you like that would make you feel like you did a good job?
That's really, I've never thought about that. That's a good question. There's always these things going around like, hey, you got a sticker, you got a shirt, you got a sweater, you got a pizza party. Those things are all good, but sometimes just pulling you aside and say, hey, man, you're doing a good job. We really appreciate you. Just those words right there, and coming from your leader, or coming from your PM, or coming from your superintendent, or coming from even like your executives in the office, right? They just come out. Um, I've worked for executives where they come out, you could be doing a great job, and all they do is ping you in the head every time they come out, right? Every time they come out, they ping you in the head, ping you in the head, ping you in the head, and you're just like, dude, is this even worth it? And that one time they come out and they're like, hey, you're Mario Martinez. Like, hey, you even know who I am? He's like, yeah, I know who you are. Like, okay, cool. Yeah, you're doing a great job. We appreciate you traveling. Thank you very much. And like, oh wow, that right there, it means a lot, right? Just talking to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so simple. It is
Simple.
Yeah.
Take the time to walk the job and see the people, not waiting for, you know, the like break and then saying one big thing to the whole team, right? It's going around and talking to each person individually and giving them that shout out to themselves, right? I think you can do both, but you like that one-on-one appreciation, hearing it from the people that you're working with and around.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Are you doing that? Since, I mean, I know you are, you know, you're running crews. So what are you doing to give that same feeling to the guys below you?
I
What are
do
you
that.
doing to change it?
I do that, Kelly. I actually see, you know, as like you said, leading crews and stuff like that, you have to know every single person in your crew. You have to meet them and you have to understand them like personally, right? Like this person is this way, this person's that way, and like you said, you have to know like what's going on with them. Like, are they okay? So what I try and do is like the people that are standing out, like, you know, I'll come up to them and I'll say, hey, come on, let's take a walk. Let's look at the job for a little bit, and we'll walk around and I'll take them to the areas that they finished and like, hey, look at this is what we're done. This is finished already. Let's check it out. And I'll say this is what you did. Thank you very much. You guys worked hard and we appreciate you guys. You know, sometimes in the meetings after we worked a lot of overtime for the 2 or 3 weeks, I'll tell the guys, thank you guys, we appreciate it. Your hard work goes it doesn't go unnoticed, you know, and there's little things that we can do here and there, but I'd rather like not talk about it. But there's things that we do to appreciate the guys, right? And obviously it's all brought up and it's all talked to and it's all approved. And there's stuff that we do, like, you know, like, hey, like maybe letting the guy go home an hour early on a Friday, right? Because he had production all week, and he gets an early drive home to be with his family, or 2 hours to be with his family because he hit production and he still got his 8 hours, right? Mm-hmm. So those are things that I like to do and just to reward the guys. But like I said, it's all approved and it's all brought to everybody's attention, and nobody, there's no secret.
Yeah. Do you have an opinion then, especially traveling on a 10-hour work week, or sorry, a 4-10 work week? Yeah.
410s would be great, but the problem with that is they see 410s, they want you there Friday. You know, they're the general contractor, right? The general contractor is always about getting the job done. You do 410s, you get your work done for that week. They're like, well, what are we doing Friday? You know, Friday we need to be here. And I've started it. We've been on jobs where we started it, and the schedule either falls behind or there's something that happened, and now we're working 6 days a week instead of 4 days a week, right? So I don't know if that makes any sense. And now we're working 6 10s, you know. Yeah, so there's usually something that happens, and I don't want to bash nobody, but maybe we'll cut this out later. But I don't want to bash nobody, but it's always like a missing information. It's always something that we're waiting on, right? And now it's, hey, you guys need to work overtime because we delayed, like, and we're gonna pay you. They always throw money. Like these some of these hiring projects that I've been on, where the owners they have a lot of money. They're just like, oh, we'll just throw money at you guys. You guys come and work all these hours. We'll throw money at you guys. So that kind of ruins the whole 410s, right?
No, you know what? I don't think we should cut that out, because I think that is very, very, very important information, because I always in Kelly and I always talk about this in terms of just schedule, and how if we built a schedule realistic at the beginning of the project, like before, you know, when the general contractor is putting a schedule into place and they're selling it to their owner, if they asked our opinions on how long it would take us to do things and they put realistic delays in there, instead of it being, oh, let's work overtime to hit the date, it's okay, well, you guys are putting all these delays, that's going to push out the end date, you know, and making that more of a reality is that, you change things, you constantly are like, then it's going to push out the end date instead of it being, who cares? Like, let's just throw money at the overtime. And because that's exactly what happens is now you've got people working 6 days a week and not being with their family for months and months and months on end. And yeah, overtime's great, the extra money's great, but at the end of the day, if you end up in a divorce or you end up, having a lot of mental problems because of it, is it really worth it?
Correct.
Yeah. And we had talked I think once about this in regards to divorce, Mario. It's like the divorce rate within the construction industry is, what is it, 12th in the country, I believe.
12
Um,
in the country.
and yeah, you're getting all this money. Great. I mean, I think there's certain construction projects that money gets thrown at like crazy. And so guys are out there they're working crazy hours. There's safety issues. The home life could be ruined. And then you come in and you're away from home, you're away from your families, but oh, great, you have all this money because you worked a crap load of overtime. But if we're, the 12th in the country in divorce rates, that money may not be that great when it really comes down to it, because now all that money's probably going to the divorce, right? Or eventually all that money's just going to, if you have to pay child support or have to pay what's the other one, the alimony, there it is. Like, all that money is just going down the drain at that point, right? I mean, it's not helping you, right? So it's like, great, I get all this money, but again, it's like manpower over you are a person. So it's an industry thing that it's like, we should work on building things as a schedule as like a realistic as must we can. But I mean, that comes down to owners, clients, businesses that if they want it fast, they want it as soon as possible. So, how do we change that from up there? That's really hard.
But that's the problem though, is why do they want it so fast? Is it because they had a lack of planning on their end? Like, that's honestly, like, that's kind of where it comes down to, is like when I feel like at that level, and not all owners at all are like this. I think there's definitely a lot that are, think about the workers and think about all of that. But some of them just don't know. They just don't understand what the repercussions are, because they're not being, no one wants to piss off the owner, right? So they don't tell them the reality of it. They don't tell them, no, I don't want my guys to be working 6 hours a week. So we can't do the overtime, even though yes, you have the money for it, but I know my guys will say yes, because that's what they're going to do, because that's their integrity of their job. But I don't want to put them through that, because I don't want to lose a bunch of my workers because of this, right? And I think it's got to start with us putting our foot down and educating, because a lot of the times it's not their fault. They're not doing it intentionally. They're just they have a plan in place, and they want this thing done by they get a date in their head, and that's the date, right? Like that.
And they hire us to hit those dates,
right?
And they hire a company. They're not hiring, the
individuals,
400 people on the job. They're hiring the company. So that vision of what it is can look different. Yeah.
But the problem is that because we're so competitive at bid time, that of course everyone's going to say yes to an unrealistic schedule, because if they want to hit this like end date, we want the job, so we're going to say, yep, we'll figure out a way to do it, knowing that sometimes schedules are built with overtime already in them.
True.
Because they're trying to hit these dates. And I think it's educating the clients, it's educating from the top down about how this is what's happening, right? This is the result of the aggressive schedules. And that's why I think a lot of lean tools and doing, design builds and doing like IPD and doing all these like other lean processes helps with that, because we're getting the clients involved in the nitty-gritty. They're seeing all of this.
Mario, from your end, because you're coming in at such a late phase of the job site or the project, what would you say, like, things that the front end should be focusing on so that makes your life easier towards the back end?
Building it right the first time.
Easy, so easy.
Yeah, building it right the first time. We don't get paid to build it twice.
I mean, it sounds simple. Yeah, for sure.
Well, you're usually going around and you're like fixing the things that got reworked. That's kind of where you're going with that, right? It's like there's a new hole. I got to go fix that now, right?
Yeah. So one of the things that I do see is like maybe I could say like maybe I was a part of a job where there was these set of drawings, and it seemed to us like there was multiple architects involved, and they didn't cross reference their drawings before they put them in play. For example, there's a plumbing pipe right where electrical pipe needs to be, and it's like, okay, if you guys would have cross-referenced this, you guys would have knew this, right? So now there's RFIs going out, and there's answers we're waiting, and so now there's a waiting game playing, and that work that should have been done or leave outs that should have been done, now they're there, and which hence pushes the schedule out.
And it's hard to push a wet trade to get done faster, right? Carpentry, you can throw some extra guys out, but a wet trade, you got to wait for that mud to dry, right? Or even paint. I mean, even with paint, it's not like you can just speed up the mud drying process. Yeah.
Here's my every time I go in these meetings, right? These weekly work plan meetings or these pool plan meetings or any of these meetings when they're like, Mario, what's your durations on Q5 sector 3? And I'm like, 5 days. 5 days? Why 5 days? I could only go as fast as my mud dries. 5 steps in taping, and I could only go as fast as my mud dries.
Well, how many times do you've explained that exact comment right there in your career?
Millions of times. I too many to remember. You know, and then they always say, "Hey, you want to throw hot mud? You want to do this? You want to do that?" It's like, oh, are you willing to take the risk of signing off saying that our warranty is voided because you wanted to use hot mud and you wanted to push the schedule? They won't do that. So.
That's the problem. Is quality is starting to take a hit, right? Like, the faster we go, the less the quality of the product is, and it shows at the end of the project when you're fixing all this stuff after punch, right? Like, in our trade, we have a lot of issues with caulking and with temp and humidity and putting something in a building that's not regulated, right, for millwork. And you've got stuff warping, you got stuff, and you're replacing like full panels of stuff, or you're replacing full, and it's taking twice as long as if we would have just waited until the project was ready for us, right? But because we're trying to push schedule, we're trying to push all these things, you're jeopardizing the quality.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's good. Yeah, that's a really good insight. There was something you'd said. I'm trying to remember back. I had a question based off of it, and I'm trying to remember now.
Oh, that's why I write it down. Well, if I remember, you gotta write them down.
I was just so intense with listening to what he was saying.
I got a question for you guys.
Okay.
I'm just switching up a little bit. You guys come from the office side, right? You guys are in operations. You guys are in the office, running the money, running all that stuff. We're in the field, right? You guys could take time off if you wanted to, but you guys choose to work 10, 12-hour days, Let's talk about that a little bit. I'm kind of curious about that,
That's such a good question. Oh my gosh. Just like as you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, we do. Gosh. I will tell you, there is a fear of taking time off and coming back to the amount of work that will be there, the emails that will be there. So even like taking time off and still looking at your phone and answering things just to be like, okay, I can answer this one really quickly. It's like, for me, there's that fear. Like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to have so much work to do. It's like, I need a vacation from the work vacation. There's just like, I constantly need vacation, right? So there's that fear. So it's easier to take time off, but still check your phone, or just not take it off. So you don't need to worry about it. Or I think another thing is, well, the project's that it's hot and heavy right now. I'll take off in 3 months when the job's going to slow down. How many times does a job really slow down when we expect it to slow down? So I know for me, I'm like, I'm a planner at heart. So I'm just going, I'll plan for vacation in 3 months. Then the job starts delaying and I'm like, well, now I don't want to take this vacation because I don't want to deal with all the work coming back, the stress of being on vacation, not knowing what's happening, that control of I want to know everything that's going on. That also feels like everything goes to crap as soon as I go on vacation, and everybody needs me as soon as I go on vacation. So it's like me realizing I need to stop being the person everybody comes to. Because I definitely have felt that way multiple times where I'm just like, I'm the person I have the most information. Why am I the only one with the most information? Am I doing a bad job at my job? Right. I don't know. And that's how I feel. So it's just easier to not take the vacation and it's easier to just work. I think the other thing is I know I'm going to get emails at 6 o'clock at night. So it's just easier to be ready for them, even though I'm stressing out waiting for the email because everyone else is working those hours. So I'm ready for 6 p.m. emails. I'm ready to see, somebody send me some issue at 6 p.m. And I'm just like, but I'm at home and I'm not taking that time. So it's a big deal for me to leave my phone in the car for, like you were saying earlier, Mario, to be present at home, which I'm still working on just being present for other reasons, but still like that's a big thing. So Jenna, I don't know where you're at with that one.
I think it's because, pretty much exactly what you just said, Kelly. I think it's the fact that we have this responsibility, in that even though we take time off, the job does not stop. And, it, the deadlines and the expectation that our customers have, doesn't change because we're off, right? Like if there's a deadline, if there's a drawing that comes out that we need to price and the deadline's 5 days and you have a 4-day vacation, they expect to see that pricing on that 5th day, regardless. So you've got to be delegating when you're gone. You've got to be, that's why I think it's important as a project manager to have a solid project engineer with you that can do these and empowering them instead of micromanaging and taking over and not trusting them, giving them the reins to say, hey, when I'm gone, I expect all of these things to get done as if I was here, and I think that's somewhere where we, on the operations side, as project managers don't do a very good job is that we don't, because a lot of us that are project managers are very type A and we're very like perfectionists. And so everything has to be done correctly. It has to be done on time. It has to be done right because it reflects on you individually. Like your name is on all these projects. And so if you put all your eggs or you put all of your trust into one other person and something screws up or something, then it comes back and reflects on you negatively. But it should either way because you were their leader, right? You are the person that should be taking ownership for any of the faults that they have anyway. So take their vacation, take the time off, don't look at your phone. If things pile up, they'll be there tomorrow. They'll be there the next day. If deadlines push, or if your project engineer accidentally prices something incorrectly and sends it in and it's catastrophic, have that conversation with the general contractor. Hey, like, can we reprice this, please? Like this, we didn't do the best job here, and then have that learning experience with your PE. That's where I think, I don't know, I personally, and I don't know if it's because I just have this I came in with this mental shift. I personally don't really, of course I think about my projects and stuff, but I don't have a really hard time taking vacations because I have that mindset of it's going to be there the next day. And when I was a PE, I had that mindset so badly that I had anxiety. I couldn't sleep. I would freak out about a delivery coming the next day. I wouldn't be able to sleep that like the next day. I would be so tired during that delivery that I would miss marking off all these cabinets or something that came off the truck. And I would be like, what is happening? It's because I slept 2 hours because I was freaking out about this delivery, right? Like, so I've learned to try to separate that because I think it's going to be beneficial to my job at the end of the day by separating my mind but it's hard. You can't, like, it's hard to do. It's
I'll say you learned it way faster than I did, because I mean your years in the industry compared to mine, it took me a lot longer to figure that out.
but I think the shift is happening now. That's why I think it was easier for me. Like, just like I think it'll be easier for generations below us as it coming into the industry. I think it'll be easier for them to separate too, because they're already coming in with that mindset.
The training
Mhm.
mindset.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, Mario, what do you think about getting more guys out in the field? Like, how do we get people to join in the field, and then how do we support them around these different types of things, like taking vacation, taking time for personal stuff, but also coming into the industry and seeing it as a growth opportunity that you've saw, that it's changed your life for the better. Yeah, there's some issues still within the industry, but how do we get more people to sign up to just work in the field?
Well, I think it would just be like promoting the culture, right? The change. Like I'm a big advocate, and I learned from my boss. I call him my leader, not my boss. My leader, he's showing me, like, family comes first. Like, he's been through a few divorces. He's been through a lot, because he didn't know how to shut it off. So now he shuts it off. He learned how to shut it off. So he's a big advocate of family comes first, right? And just it trickles down, right? It trickles down into us, his leaders, and obviously you made a bit, like, what stood out to me when you take your vacation is like, hey, when to take your vacation because you're looking at what's going on, right? A lot of the guys are like, I'm just going to take vacation now. We're working 12-hour days. I'm going to take vacation now. And it's like, we'll just call the union then, and this is the biggest thing, right? Because we'll just call you union. Maybe that work's not available for them when they come back. Just like, knowing when to do it and letting them know, like, hey, it's okay to have family first, and we understand that there's emergencies, but at the same time, look at the bigger picture, look at the job site, and not be so selfish when you do it, right? And that's what, when you guys were talking about it, I was like, oh, so you guys don't have a union that you guys could just call and say, hey, Kelly's going to be gone for 3 weeks. Let's go get a PM to come in and fill in for her for those 3 weeks while she's gone.
No, not at all. We do not have that. Yeah. I mean, if you're gone for 3 weeks, yeah, there's probably going to be some type of a backup plan. If you're going, I think the longest I've ever taken was 2 weeks, and both 2-week vacations one was at the beginning of a job, so it was super slow. The other one was like over Christmas and New Year's, and everyone knows that's like the worst time to have construction going on. We should just take that, like, we should just have those weeks off. Like, the industry should just close down. Personally, highly recommend just construction halting for like 2 weeks during this time.
Mhm.
So I've never taken it. I've paid attention, and 2 weeks was I would say the first 2 weeks I definitely looked at my work emails still every day, but it was still slow. But I just checked in daily because I didn't have a PE. And it was early enough I didn't need a PE yet, and so it was fine. But 3 weeks, a month, yeah, you better have a backup plan. A day, I say this, I feel like it's gonna bite me really bad. It's like, oh, just take a Friday off, and that's the Friday that everything's just going down.
Mm-hmm.
That's because it seems like it happened. So I think that is a fear of mine. But yeah, I wish we could just like call somebody and be like, hey, take care of all my work for the next 3 weeks. But no.
Kelly, what did you do when you went on maternity leave?
So okay. So I guess I did take longer than 2 weeks. Thanks, Jenna.
I was like, oh, more than 2 weeks off for return. Like, I know that you're a badass, but geez.
I totally forgot about that. No, I didn't.
Went in, popped it out, and came back 3 days later.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, exactly. Actually, I worked all the way up to my due date because she had not come yet, and she was born the day after Christmas. So I worked all the way up to her due date, which was supposed to be the 20th. Again, luckily that was it at the end. Luckily, like, it's not like I planned that. She was not planned, but luckily it was the end of a project, and there was a PE that had been on that project for 2+ years. So he knew the job really well. And it's at the end. We were literally like almost done. We were in punch. He took it on for like the like 2 months that was left, which was all the easy stuff. Well, not I wouldn't say easy, but just the final things. So that was really not that big of a deal. So luckily I was in a situation that it worked out. I can't say that for many other women, so I don't know. But yeah, luckily. I mean, I don't know, Mario, have you taken a couple days off for your your youngest daughter was born? She's 3. Did you get some paternity leave?
So here's where the industry's changing, right? From the other kids, like there was like no time off, but this is where I know where the industry's changing. When I was already in a leader's role, and I had a crew, and I was running the crew, and the project executive on the job was like, "Hey, Mario, are you going to take some time off for the baby?" Because it was like a scheduled delivery for Friday. We're supposed to induce, be there Saturday, Sunday, maybe take a couple of days off and come back. And he was like, "Look, man, I don't want to see you for the next 3 weeks." He goes, "You better take the next 3 weeks off to be with your family. Otherwise, you're going to be in a hot mess with me." So that's how I know where the industry's changing, right?
Yeah.
That's
Stuff like
awesome. Yeah,
that.
that's super.
So stuff like that.
But
Yeah.
here, and this is, you can tell me if you want to respond or not. Was it paid or was it not paid?
It was paid.
Well,
It was
doesn't
paid.
California have a similar? Because Colorado
know.
just passed a bill, or I don't really know if it's a bill. They just introduced FMLI, FAMLI, and it's basically like you get a certain percentage of your income, and I don't know what the paternity portion of it is, but the women for women it's 3 months. I think California has something similar to that, right? Like even if your company doesn't quote unquote offer it, the government kind of forces them to, essentially, or they like you pay into it.
So we pay into it, and yes, us as the father, we get 9 weeks of paid fatherly leave, but through disability, it would be through disability. You file a claim and you take it off, and those 3 weeks that I took off was something else, like towards not part of that. But I remember they give you a whole year to use it, and after that, I didn't use none of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how fast paced it was, because I couldn't find the time to take it.
So it's like, even if we offer, that's the thing. That's where the mindset shift has to happen, is we offer these things, right? Like these,
But not everyone takes
but not
it.
everyone takes it.
Not everyone
Yeah.
takes it. Yep.
Well, I was just gonna say, Mario, I mean, I guess I didn't know. If you've got guys that are gonna be in similar situations and on your crew, they're about to have a baby, do you make sure that they're aware of that so that they can be like, hey, you can get 9 weeks off and like you're good? Because it's harder for the guys in the field to take 1 day off if they can't get it covered, right?
Yeah, and I just had a guy. He just like in October he had a baby, and I mentioned to him. I go, "Hey, you have 9 weeks of disability, right?" And he's like, I kind of explained it to him, like giving him the resources. Right, it's all about sharing resources, right? And he didn't know, and he applied for it, and he got it. And the beauty about that is you don't have to take it all 9 weeks at one time, right? You can take a week here and then like a week there, or let's just say you have a doctor's appointment today, and your wife can't take them to the doctor. You can take that day off, take your son to the doctor or daughter, and it's paid through the state of disability. So you could take it as 1 day here, or you could take a Thursday, Friday, so let's just say a Friday, Monday off. Now you got 4 days off, and you only use 2 of it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think that's a benefit for like the guys to have something similar that women do, because I think we realize that, I mean, you said it, Mario, your wife you guys got 4 kids in there. She's working. She was going back to school. If you can help out and, take a kid to a doctor's appointment or help out in any way, just do something like that. That's a big deal. And sometimes we can't do that within the industry because you could be fired. You could, you're losing 8 hours worth of money that it's not worth it, depending on where you are in the level of your experience in the industry. If you're an apprentice, it may not be cost effective for you to do that. It could negatively affect you paying a bill this month. So, I mean, I think having that availability is a big thing, and knowing about it, right? So sharing that. So if you as a leader are sharing it, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And then also, I was just on a job site like maybe a couple of weeks ago, and all the BAs and the directors came out to the job site. It was pretty cool seeing them, and they were just like, we're talking about it, and we're like, hey, cool, we're talking about, because the guy actually went to my brother's funeral, and I was like, hey man, you were the guy who went to my brother's funeral, right? And he's like, yeah, and he's like, hey man, how you guys doing? Blah 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 blah, and we just started chopping it up and talking and stuff, and he was just like, hey, speaking of that, like, how are you doing mentally? And he started talking about that. He goes, hey, I just wanted to introduce to you that these new plans that we got, like, there's these numbers that are going to come up, these email addresses, where, for example, let's just say you're having trouble with the babysitter, you can reach out. The union's going to offer it. It's a paid paid resource from the union where you can call and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm having trouble with the babysitter, and I'm working right now, but I can't lose my job. And they'll actually send you to these resources where they can help you with that. Or for example, like, hey, I'm really going through right now. I feel suicidal, or I feel my wife left me and I'm feeling really depressed, or hey, you know what? I haven't been eating right because I don't know how to. I don't know. I don't have money right now. Like all my things is going on food. So they'll send you to all these resources where you can go get food or get mental health
Wow.
looked at, or you can go, like he mentioned, like as far as like you need a babysitter, they'll call you. They'll send you somewhere that's going to help you find a babysitter within your budget. Um, it's all resources that the union's paying for. So by him sharing that with me, what I'm trying to get at is it's now my job not to report the information, is share it with the guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Share it with the guys, and because in the end of the day, like I said, we're a brotherhood. We see each other more than we see our families, and it's all about sharing the information.
Yeah, taking care of each other.
That's
Yep,
awesome that that's happened. I mean, again, that's just showing there's a shift happening, that people are seeing that that's more important than just being paid, right? I mean, we all want to be paid. That's how we live our lives. It's very important, but there's more to it, and to take care of the people. And so, I know there's companies that do things like that, union, whatever it is, but we need to be taking care of the people, and that's all the way down to the guy or girl on the wall getting the work done. And I think that's really awesome that they're starting to offer those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one last question, Mario, for you. So based off of the fact that majority of our field does not have quote unquote company emails, right? So like it's a little harder. Some of them might not even have email addresses in general. How do you think us as an industry can do a better job getting this information to them without it having to just be word of mouth? I mean, a lot of these resources are being provided by these companies, and I feel like a lot of the field folk don't really know a whole lot about it. And one thing I think that is happening is there's like a lot of these new things like Workday and Dayforce and these things that they can put like apps on their phone and be able to access it. But are there other ways that you have seen or that you have opinions on that can help do that?
It's really hard because as a company, like the company I work for is mainly like the guys who take the training are like the leaders, right? And then it would be my job to like get it to them. But I know what we do as a company. Like we have a lot of QR codes. We post it on all our lean boards. We post it on all our gang boxes, on all our data vaults, on anything. Usually has like a whole thing of information with everything that as a company that's offering, right? And it's just like probably us sharing that information with them and letting them know. That's I didn't even thought about that, but an app would be a great idea, right? And just letting the guys know that there's an app and they can go through that.
We're patenting that. Don't steal it. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
No, the three of us, we can do it.
okay.
No.
But yeah, it's really hard, especially with the language barriers. And if you're not bilingual, like it's really hard to get the information. And some of the guys don't even like. We'll be in meetings and they don't even really understand what's going on, and having to translate to them and just giving them their information. And maybe me, like I do speak Spanish, but I don't speak perfect Spanish. So maybe something I heard in English, I can't translate it as great as I wanted to. Um,
No. Well, I would say this was a wonderful, I knew it was going to be. I knew it was going to be a wonderful interview episode. conversation with you, Mario, and I really, really appreciate it. It was like you're on ADD back there, like just like running around your backyard. I know you're keeping yourself busy. That's why I'm fidgeting underneath like the table, so that's okay. But really appreciate you making time to talk to us today and doing this in general and sharing some really personal stories. So thank you to you and your wife for allowing to share that, because it is a really important topic and really a great thing to know, have other people hear it and see that, you know, they're not alone. So I really appreciate it. And I know Jenna does too. So
Well, thanks so much, Mario. We really appreciate that. This has been like, honestly, like, emotional for me just to hear your story. And so I don't think in for me to like already have the mindset shift, like for other people to hear this, I think you're going to be amazed on how many people this is going to touch. So we really appreciate you sharing your story.
You know, like I was telling Kelly, I like sharing my story because if I could do it and if I could come up and I could focus my effort in this and if I could take my experience, strength, and hope and share it with people and let them know that, hey, you don't have to be just a 9-to-5 guy. You can go and you can be a supervisor, you can be superintendent, you can travel, you can, because it's all good, right? In the end of the day, like you meet new people and yes, it's tough on your mind and your family and you just have to learn how to separate it. But it brought me these whole new career paths, right? And if I could do it and I could own my own home and I could have a nice truck and I could have stuff like that, like the guy right now on the corner asking for change could do the same thing.